In a bustling village called Ayetoro, where merchants thrived and traders lined the streets from dawn to dusk, there lived a young boy named Olawale. Ayetoro was known for its prosperity, and the villagers spent their days working tirelessly to keep their wealth growing. Among these hardworking villagers were Olawale's parents, Ola Sangkanmi and Motunrayo. They were respected for their business acumen, owning the largest granary in the region. Yet while they prospered in wealth, they were poor in the care they provided to their only child. Olawale, barely more than 7 years old, grew up in the shadows of his parents' ambition. His father, Ola Sangkanmi, would leave before the morning cock crowed, his mind set on expanding their grain business. His mother, Motunrayo, spent her days supervising laborers and ensuring that their household ran smoothly. They provided Olawale with food, clothes, and a grand home. But what he lacked was what no riches could replace: the guiding hands and loving hearts of his parents. Left to his own devices, Olawale wandered the village aimlessly. While other children learned the ways of their people from their elders, Olawale found himself in the company of street hawkers and mischievous boys. These boys, often neglected by their own families, became his friends, and, unwittingly, his teachers. They introduced him to things that a child should never know: trickery, theft, and disrespect for the wisdom of the elders. One day, as Olawale roamed the market, he overheard a conversation between two traders. "A child without direction is like a tree without roots," one said, his voice grave. The words lingered in Olawale's mind, though he did not fully understand them. He continued to drift through life, exposed to dangers that no one shielded him from. By the time Olawale reached 10 years, he had already earned a reputation as a troublesome boy. He skipped lessons at the village school, preferring instead to hang around older boys who indulged in bad habits. The elders whispered among themselves, "Where are his parents? Why do they not guide him?" But Ola Sangkanmi and Motunrayo were too engrossed in their affairs to notice the shadow creeping over their son's spirit. When Olawale's behavior began affecting the villagers, the chief summoned Ola Sangkanmi and Motunrayo. "Your wealth may feed your belly," the chief said sternly, "but it will not shape your son into a man of honor." Ola Sangkanmi and Motunrayo promised to pay more attention to Olawale, but their promises were as fleeting as the morning dew. In the days that followed, Olawale continued to spiral downward. Though he longed for his parents' guidance, he was too young to understand how to ask for it. Instead, he sought comfort in the only place he knew: the streets. And so, the seeds of neglect were sown deep within his heart. As Olawale entered his teenage years, the effects of his lonely upbringing became more apparent. The mischievous boy had grown into a rebellious youth, unafraid of consequences and distrustful of authority. The older boys who had once been his friends were now men with hardened hearts, and they led Olawale down even darker paths. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Olawale found himself in the company of a gang notorious for stealing from merchants. They saw in Olawale a boy desperate for belonging and eager to prove himself. With smooth words and promises of adventure, they lured him into their fold. "If your parents will not notice you, then let the world see who you are," said their leader, a man called Mando, whose eyes gleamed like a snake's. Olawale, yearning for acknowledgement, agreed to join them. That night, under the cover of darkness, they raided a merchant's storehouse. Olawale felt a rush of excitement, but it was mixed with fear. He knew deep down that what he was doing was wrong, yet he had no one to pull him back. The raid was successful, and the gang celebrated. For the first time in a long while, Olawale felt a sense of belonging. But that feeling was short-lived. For the next morning, the merchant discovered the theft and reported it to the village elders. The chief, upon hearing the news, gathered the villagers and declared, "This crime will not go unpunished. We must find the culprits." Fear gripped Olawale's heart, but he tried to appear indifferent. He knew that if he were caught, there would be no mercy. His parents, despite their status, had lost the respect of the villagers because of his waywardness. Yet even in this moment of crisis, Olasunkanmi and Motunreo remained distant, oblivious to the turmoil their son was facing. In the days that followed, Olawale became more withdrawn. The thrill of the raid had worn off, replaced by guilt and anxiety. He began to question his choices, but without guidance, he saw no way out of the darkness. It's a huge... One evening, as he sat alone by the river, an old woman approached him. Her name was Mama Ebele, known in the village for her wisdom. She had watched Olawale grow up and knew the pain he carried. "Child," she said gently, "you are like a bird that has lost its nest. But even a lost bird can find its way home if it listens to the wind." Olawale did not understand her words fully, but something in her tone stirred his heart. For the first time, he felt seen, not as a troublemaker, but as a boy searching for something he could not name. Mama Eobele became a quiet presence in Olawale's life, offering him counsel when no one else would. She told him stories of great men who had once been lost, but found their way through the guidance of wise elders. "Even the mightiest baobab begins as a fragile sapling," she often said. Encouraged by her words, Olawale began to distance himself from the gang. It was not easy. They mocked him and tried to lure him back with promises of wealth and power. But something had changed within him. The seeds of neglect were now being overshadowed by seeds of hope. One day, Olawale gathered the courage to speak to his parents. It was a difficult conversation, for they had grown used to their distance. "Father, Mother," he said, his voice trembling, "I need you. I have made many mistakes, but I want to change. Will you help me?" Olasunkanmi and Motunrayo were taken aback. They had never seen their son so vulnerable. At that moment, they realized the depth of their neglect and the role they had played in his downfall. With tears in their eyes, they embraced Olawale, promising to be the parents he had always needed. With the support of his parents and the guidance of Mama Ebele, Olawale embarked on a journey of redemption. He began attending lessons again and learning the ways of the elders. He sought forgiveness from those he had wronged and worked hard to rebuild his reputation. Over time, Olawale transformed from a boy lost in the shadows to a young man of honor. The villagers, once wary of him, grew to respect him for his courage and determination. And though the road had been long and difficult, Olawale learned that even in the darkest moments, the light of hope could shine through if one listened to the wisdom of the elders and the call of the heart. And so Olawale's tale became a lesson for the village of Ayatoro, a reminder that wealth cannot replace love, and that every child needs a guiding hand to help them find their way.